I don't know. I think it depends on the situation. One, if I'm in a situation where I'm like confident, then people are really overwhelmed by me because I don't take long to like share what I think or I don't. It just like I don't really have any reservations usually. But if it's like a situation like maybe work or something where I'm more uncomfortable, like people think I'm really quiet, which is not true. And then I think also now that I have like regular person hair, it's very different than when I had long hair. In college, when I had hair like to my waist, my professors would think that I was like this hoodlum and then they would like judge me immediately. But it worked in my favor because I could go and like talk to them. And once they realized I was like a well-spoken adult, then it surprised them. So their like expectations went from like down here to way up here. Whereas if I was just a normal person, like it would have just been here. So now I'm just a normal person. I think I spend a lot of my time like saying something along the lines of like no pressure because I have ideas and I want to tell people about them and I want them to like get involved and be excited about stuff, but I wish that they like knew that it was okay to tell me no and then it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they told me no.
So what does that reflect about you that you don't think people understand?
My excitement level for whatever I'm interested in is like way up here. So I think they're projecting onto me that like if they were that excited about something, they would like really care whether other people cared about it or not. Like obviously it's better if people care about it and that's like more fun. But at the same time, like it doesn't like I'm just gonna do whatever it was that I was excited about anyways. I don't know. I remember one Christmas morning I got a bike and it was the first time I had bikes with like hand brakes. So usually it was just like pedal backwards and slow down. And I went and just took off and rode as fast as I could down the street. And then I just grabbed a handful of front brake and flipped over the handlebars and like slid. My dad felt so bad. He's like, oh my gosh, I should have told him about the front brake.
How old
But
do you think you were?
I have no idea. I'm really bad at like knowing when stuff happened, even as an adult. So I would say like 10, but I really don't know. Like as a kid, I was always into some project. So there was always like some midterm goal that I was trying to get to or whatever. Like, so it was never, it was always pretty like nearsighted. I never like really planned for the future. I think that was also like just a luxury of what my life was like too, because I didn't really have to worry about, like, I was pretty sure I was going to go to college, pretty sure I was going to like make okay grade. Like, school wasn't super hard for me. So it was just like, whatever I was doing for fun. That's what I was interested in.
But you didn't have like any like big dreams when you were a kid?
Not that I can like remember. There was not like one thing I could think of that I wanted to do. Like it just felt like everything was accessible to me, which I think it still feels that way. Like I still could probably kind of whatever I decided I wanted to do, like I probably could get there somehow. And that may be true, it may not be true. It just like something I've learned about myself is I feel like I'm an infinite human being, and I can always just like I can have as many relationships at the same time as possible. I can read. I'm reading literally like 8 books right now all at the same time. So I think I've always been that way.
Have you ever had an experience where you were like weren't able to do something that you wanted to?
I've been thinking a lot about that lately, in the sense like thinking about my own privilege. Recently, with a certain camp situation, it was like kind of the first time I realized like, wow, like I wrote an email and I cared a lot about it and I put a lot of time and effort into it and I spoke to people and like just didn't move the needle at all. Like I'd made no impact, and I don't think I've ever been in a situation before that, like on like a large scale, where I felt like I had zero power. And it's been interesting to think about, like, there's a lot of people who live their whole lives feeling like they have no power over a situation that like is bad for them or hurts them. But I had my first one last couple of years and it sucked. So
What's been your reaction to that?
it's just good perspective, I think, to have. Like, I've always been in a position of power in one sense or another in like pretty much whatever I was doing, whether I felt like it or not. Like, my opinion mattered most of the time. My parents' opinions mattered. Like, I remember in like 6th or 7th grade, I wasn't selected for some like advanced English class or something, My mom got like really mad and like went to the school and I was like really embarrassed, but then they like put me in the class. So like I've always like had that, and now like I recognize that because of who I am and what I look like and just kind of how I grew up and how I think, like I have a voice that people will listen to. I want to be really careful about taking that and giving it to other people that don't necessarily have that. That's kind of like a big driver behind like a lot of my thinking for the last year about like what I want to do. I started working at the company that I work at with the goal of like, if I can work there and then also do what I care about and what I love, which is disability ministry, and do those together and do and work like in service of that, then I can do that. And for the first year, it felt like, oh no, like this is a huge mistake. Like work is like kind of owning my life. I still feel that way in some senses, but also like a lot of doors for disability ministry at the same time have kind of opened up. So now I have a side hustle for an organization called the Banquet Network, and they help churches start their own disability ministries. Like I've gotten to do Young Life Capernaum, which is a blast, and hopefully going to be able to help figure out whatever happens with the camp that I used to work at. I think I'm still in like the waiting. Like I don't know what it's going to look like yet. But I think like a year from now, I'll have a clearer picture. And then a year from then, I'll have an even clearer picture. That plan of like work there to figure it out is still, I'm still in the middle of that. And as much as I'm tempted to be like, no, like I don't want to work here. I want to go and like follow my passion. Like I still kind of want to see that through because it's like, it's a really good opportunity. Like I've been experienced with some of the organizations I've been involved in the past. Like the people in power were business people that had a lot of money and power because of that. And so I see like, maybe if I stay and work and eventually like am in a position of power in this company, like I can be one of those people and I can make a difference in that sense. And then also just, you know, it's family business and I have more flexibility than I would otherwise. Like, so I don't know. Whatever it is, like I want to do more disability ministry than I'm doing now. And I want it to be like really meaningful. And there's kind of like 3 things that I've got going on right now, and I don't know like what mix of those is going to happen. But yeah, I'm just going to keep doing them as much as I can and just kind of see what happens with them.
When did you start to learn about disability ministry?
I got kind of talked into going to camp. Camp Blessing is a summer camp for kids with special needs. So I went and I was really nervous and I didn't really know what to expect. And I was there for like 20 minutes and I was like, this is amazing. Like, and then I fell in love with it and just had like an amazing week. And then I came back again another week that summer. And then I was on staff for 5 years, I guess. And then ended up on leadership and just like really, really fell in love with it and really, really like loved the mission and just kind of how it affects our campers' lives and the volunteers' lives and the staff's lives. It's like the most impactful, and like the more I've learned about it and thought about it, like this is so true. Like God designed us to be different and some of us to be vulnerable, like so that we could have relationships with each other and so that we could care for each other and so that we could burden each other, and that's all like very, very beautiful, and it's very, very obvious when it comes to disability ministry. Like you can't fake disability ministry, so if somebody needs help in the bathroom or needs help communicating or whatever, like you can't just like pretend like you're doing it. You know, you have to actually do it. And so it really takes people, it makes people like kind of shift their like, you know, they're going along and like the world revolves around them, and then they come in contact with disability ministry and they're like, oh shoot, like I got to change some things about my life. Like I got to let go of some of like my comfort to like make these people feel included or cared for. And you can't just like unsee it. And so you can't just like move on and ignore it. Like it's very, very powerful. And I just like I love watching that like transformation. It's still happening in me like every time, every day. Yeah, I've just never seen anything like it, like anything that's like as powerful or impactful as it is. Yeah, I think it like points out the truth about me that I'm not infinite and that I can't do anything and that nobody is. My personality is just to be like, I don't need anybody, I don't need anything, like I can just go and do it. And that's just not true. And that's just like very obvious in disability ministry. So something that it has taught me about myself is that I'm not like infinite.
So in general, do you find it difficult to rely on other people?
I don't know about difficult. I just don't ever, it's like it doesn't cross my mind that I need to, unless there's a situation where I have to. And then I can be like, oh yeah, like I need help or I'm not perfect. To get to that point, like there has to be something that happens. Yeah, I think I definitely had to learn not to run over other people. I think my first year on leadership, we gave feedback about our other team members, and Glenn and Laura sat me down and they were like, "Hey, we don't know, we kind of see this, but here's what the feedback was," and it was that you take stuff over and that you don't include other people, and I was like, "What? No." And then I thought back about that summer, and I was like, oh yeah, here's one situation that I took over. Here's another situation that I took over. Here's another situation. And it's not because I think I'm better or whatever. It's just I get on that path and then start bulldozing. And yeah, I need that reminder to include other people. So I feel like I've grown a ton in that. So much of what I do now, I work really, really hard to make sure that kind of everybody's voice is heard and involved, and that when we're working on the Celebrate Abilities Partnership, we have a panel of experts who were Next Steps participants. So our Friends with Disabilities are one team of our group of teams for the project that we're working on, and their input has been so amazing and valuable. And I think because of camp, I learned that a lot of leadership is setting everybody else up to have a voice and have a say and cause what happens. The more voices I include, the better the outcome is. Sometimes I have good ideas, but I'm one of the members of the team that has good ideas, and it works way better that way than if it's just my thing. So.
Do you think that your time on leadership is a period of your life that you reflect on a lot?
Yeah, I think about it a lot. Yeah, it was probably the most transformative, important time of my life, hands down, for sure, forever probably. The person I was when I got to camp and the person I was when I left camp, completely different in so many ways. And I tell people a lot, my experience at camp is the equivalent of maybe 25 or 30 years of experience just working in a regular job or something, just because it's such a pressure cooker. There's so many relationships you have to manage. There's so many stressful situations you have to manage, in every sense, and deal with. And you deal with a lot of them badly and learn from that, and you deal with a lot of them well. And you have a team of people around you that are wiser than you and less wise than you, and a lot of people that are just working together to help each other be better. And that was such a healthy community. And I feel really, really grateful for having had that experience, because I know that's not true for everybody. It was a big smack in that, my world revolved around me. And then when I got to the camp, all of a sudden it was so obvious that wasn't true. And so it just smacked me into this position of humility of okay, I am not I'm not the smartest person here. I'm not the most experienced person here. I don't know what's going on. And there's a lot of incredible people that do. And so I need to sit down and be quiet and listen. And I can have fun and be loud and fun and crazy or whatever, but there's, I owe so much of who I am to, I was just thinking the other day of Caleb told me one time, we had a conversation. Caleb was already on the leadership team when I was on staff at camp, and we had a conversation that summer before I was on leadership, and then he told me that he argued for me to be on leadership the next summer, and I was just wow, if Caleb hadn't done that, my life would be so different now. I thought about that literally 2 days ago. I learned so much about relationships and about the value of other people that are different than me, and the fact that not everybody's like me, right? Until camp, I was just projecting onto everyone that they were all the same as me. I tell that story of every weekend I wanted to go to the lake, and I brought my boat and I wanted to go to the lake, and some people would say yes, but most people would be no. And I was well, if you invited me to the lake, the only reason I would ever not go to the lake is if I hated you, because I love going to the lake. And so I was you must hate me. Which now is totally irrational. It's just people are normal and they've been working for a full week and they only have 24 hours off, and they just like need to sit in a room away from people, and that's okay, and that's like a normal way to be a human. But before that, I was just like, everyone hates me, and like these people are all lame and boring. So I have such a hard time with this question. Like, I'm full of stories as a human,
Yeah.
but whenever you're just like, what's a good story? Like, I can't. It's hard. The meanest thing I've ever done to anyone.
Okay.
It's a good. We we had this apartment in college, sophomore year of college. We had this apartment in this complex called The View, and our back door was like a glass pane. And I mean, obviously, like I was just shooting my Daisy Red Ryder in there, and I got like a takeout box from the cafeteria and drew a target on it and like wadded up a blanket in the corner. I was like shooting the takeout box with my BB gun, and as I was walking out, I like for whatever reason, my brain was like, oh, this will be a good idea. I saw like a Wendy's cup on our coffee table, and I was like, oh, it won't go through the Wendy's cup, which is like completely irrational. But it went through I shot the Wendy's cup, it went through the Wendy's cup, bounced off our coffee table, and went into the back door and just like shattered it, and all the glass fell out. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm leaving for Easter. Like I'm gonna be like, I need to leave. But I have time to do this. I took a picture of the glass and I texted it to our roommate GroupMe, and I was like, hey, Austin, someone broke in and stole all your stuff. And so he calls me, and I'm like going through his bedroom, and I'm like picking stuff up and being like, oh yeah, didn't you have like a lamp here? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, didn't you used to have like this here? And he's like, yeah. And he's like getting more and more like freaked out. And then I was like, yeah, dude, they took like the TV was his. I was like, dude, they took the TV and like all the game consoles, because he had a bunch of game consoles. And he was like, did they take the Xbox? The Xbox is Adam's. And I was like, no, dude, the Xbox is still here. Like, who did you piss off? And he's like, okay, I'm gonna call my dad. And he's like about to hang up, and I'm like, hey, Austin, I'm just messing with you. Like, I broke the window. And he's just like, F you. And then he didn't talk to me for like 2 weeks. And it was like super mean, but so funny. And we're still like, we're friends now. Like, we're really good friends, and we have been for a long time. So, there's people that I want to be like, and Jean Vanier is one. In a lot of senses, I want to be like him. Some things came out about him after his death that was like, I don't want to be like, and no one should want to be like. But like, I've read all his books. He started an organization called L'Arche, which is an international organization where they have homes for people with disabilities, and it's like people with and without disabilities live there together, and it's just like the most beautiful representation of like how it's supposed to be, like how community is supposed to work, and it's amazing. And just like all of that came out of like really deep wisdom of understanding like how humanity works and how God relates to humanity, and like what God is doing through humanity and kind of the stories he's telling. And just like that man, until his death, like this last year, like was a saint, and everybody loved him, and he didn't even want that to be the case. And that's how I want to be. And I that motivation will never be perfect. Like, I'll never be like purely selfless and like not like doing things that somehow like affect me, but like I want to be somebody who brings something that like beautiful to the world. And I'm okay with just like taking what he's already like like just like copying quotes out of his book and like posting them everywhere. Because I think that's incredible. I love Bob Goff. I love like his story of like being a regular guy, like a crazy guy, but a regular guy. He's like a lawyer, he's a businessman, and then now he's doing like all these incredible things in the world. Like, he's starting schools in like war-torn countries all over the world, and like fighting for the rights of like young girls in the countries where they aren't treated well, and just like doing all this like crazy, awesome, impactful stuff. And he has all these ambitions, and he's like actually making it happen. And that's what I want to do. I think until recently, I've been like figuring out what the next section of life is supposed to look like. So like, I was doing high school, and then I was doing college, and then I was doing camp, and then I was doing like trying to figure out how work starts. But now I feel like I'm on the cusp of this part of my life where I get to like pick my ambitions and like really go for them and do them. So that's what I want to do. that's why I want to do this like vlog with Corey Jones and like make Corey famous and like kind of give my voice to him and show people that like hanging out with people with disabilities is a blast and like inspire them to go do that themselves. And yeah, so I don't know that I think about what I want to be remembered for all that much, but I do think a lot about like what I want to do and what impact I want it to have. So I guess that's kind of the same thing. So
Cool.
yep.